you ever see that video of a buffalo that the buffalo are like running away from? It might have been a lion or something like that in the Sahara or wherever, in like the plains of Africa, and they're like attacking this buffalo, but it's staying upright, and it seems like the lions are like kind of losing steam, and he's going to get away, and then this big fucking truck of a buffalo comes barreling through, knocks that other buffalo over, and keeps on going.
Yeah, I seen that. Yeah, that is the opposite.
Yeah. And then
some fucking psychotic shit.
Yeah,
you know?
and then so, but I mean that's you got the pack mentality, and then you got the herd mentality.
Yeah.
And the herd mentality is, one goes over a cliff, and they're all kind of following, going over the cliff, and they can't stop it, and they just all fall to their deaths, type thing, right? It's a lot of parallels to humans, right?
Big time.
And problems with us, I feel like, so.
Yeah, it's funny, like a few years ago I got really into the dark triad. Just I when I was in university, I was really into psychology. And
what's the dark triad?
The dark triad's like narcissism, Machiavellianism, and I think it might be psychopathy. But basically the dark sides of humans.
And what's Machiavellianism?
That one is, I believe it's manipulation. It's like people that manipulate to get what they want, and then there's like narcissism, there's like covert narcissism where they're very friendly, you like them, but it's all a mask, and right. Underneath they have all these very selfish goals.
Right.
And it's funny because like I grew up with a narcissist, and I also met a narcissist. Right. And it's funny because like the mask drops, and usually those people don't have friends. Mm-hmm. Like they'll have a group of friends, and then all of a sudden they're gone.
Yeah.
And they have another group of friends, and then they're gone. So
right.
I got really into that, and it's interesting because when you meet somebody, it's like a resume. They chat with you, and it's not until you have multiple meetings with someone that you really see who they are,
right.
And
yeah,
it's like assholes in the animal world. We're like a lot more adept at like right. hiding, dark shit, and
yeah. Like I like putting it this way, like do you love your friends, or do you love having friends?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like there's a big difference there, and some people just love having friends, and they love the feeling that they get from having friends.
Yeah.
And I think that's fairly narcissistic, I think, but if you love your friends, then it doesn't matter how your friends are doing or what they can provide for you. It's like, how can you help your friend out and lift them up if they need it, and then you see, when that's reciprocated, you see your true friends as well, right?
Big time.
So
yeah, it should feel good helping your friends.
Yeah.
Because I find, especially like growing up in a smaller province, like you get a group of friends that you grow up with. People aren't usually moving away, so
right.
You went to school together, and then you start drinking together, so you have like friends that are just kind of a given.
Yeah.
And as you get older, they kind of drop away because you probably were never really friends. It's just a face value.
Well, yeah. I mean, you were. I think you are. Yeah. Well, I think you're friends. You're friends out of convenience, and then like a little similar personality, similar likes, and then as you mature and grow older, and you kind of sort those likes out and determine what is really you, then those relationships kind of fade a little bit because people are are different, and so yeah, I think it's just
People grow. That's
yeah,
true.
yeah. I think you just kind of grow apart a little bit. I think it's a little bit harsh to say like you never were friends, but
No, and I don't mean it in every situation. I still have some friends that I've had since I was 4. You know what
right,
I mean? Like we
yeah,
stayed friends.
yeah,
I care about them.
yeah,
But some friends, like I remember when I was in like my late 20s, a friend of ours like drank a lot
right,
and like got out of hand, like would punch in the face or
yeah.
try to bang your girlfriend, like all that shit.
Fuck.
And so me and a couple buddies got together and we were like, let's go to his house and like chat with him.
Yeah.
Like kind of a soft
Intervention.
intervention. Exactly. So we go in his house and the boys start talking. It was super awkward. I was like, this is dumb. And he goes, guys, what are you talking about? We're just drinking buddies. I'm like, that always stuck with me. You know, I was like,
yeah,
you know what? He's kind of right. We only
yeah,
get together to have beers, you know, and like,
yeah,
it's pretty
yeah,
shallow,
right,
you know.
yeah,
But I think too, like, you don't really, I can't say for everybody, but a lot of people don't know who they are until later in life, you know, and
yeah,
then when you start to figure out who you are, then you can start meeting people that are more, I'll say, aligned or interesting,
yeah,
you know, people that you can have a different kind of respect for, and that builds deeper bonds,
yeah,
you know, and then, yeah, I mean, I'm sure you've outgrown people. I've outgrown people.
yeah. Like when I
Yeah.
was growing up, I couldn't imagine having closer friends than the friends that I grew up with.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I moved away and became a cop and moved away, and then went through hell with people, and had these life-changing experiences with friends, where we almost die together, or something, or whatever the example is that is significant. Like those became my closest friends, and people I put trust with my life and whatnot, right? So that was that was a huge eye opener for me, right? And but that's life, I guess.
Yeah.
But
Well, it makes sense. I
yeah,
mean, you know, trauma bonding is
yeah,
huge.
yeah. And you're in my, I mean, when I was 19, so uh, like basically not even a adult yet, and I'm a cop, and then you're really developing as an adult in your 20s, as you're going through these insane experiences on a daily basis with people that you're close with, and so then your personality is kind of refined then, or altered based on your experiences, uh, and you're sharing those experiences with those people. So uh, so yeah, you just kind of get closer,
Yeah.
right? But
Yeah, that does make sense.
yeah,
Yeah, it's nice too having people. There's a comfort there when you feel like you know somebody,
yeah,
you know,
right.
and I think that's also,
And like when you like trust is huge for friendship too, where you can just have a conversation and uh, not feel like just feel relaxed enough to have this conversation with a friend, and um, that is not going to then talk shit about you behind your back,
yeah,
about some stupid shit you said or whatever, or misconstrued what you said, and just whatever, right?
yeah,
Like, or I always hate it, like if you're having a conversation with somebody and they take the worst possible, um, interpretation of a nuanced point you're trying to get across, and like try to paint you into a corner with, or
yeah,
you're saying you believe that. It's like, no, I'm not saying I believe that. It's much more to that than that, right? So I can't stand people like that.
no, like why are
That's
you trying to win the conversation?
yeah, yeah,
We're just chatting, you know.
yeah, exactly, right? Like, settle down.
Well, COVID, like I had a buddy that I would consider to be my best friend. I've known him forever. You know, we had kids at the same time, and the whole COVID thing, I I thought it was like a open spot to talk about
Yeah,
how fucked up I thought it was,
yeah,
and
yeah,
like, this is crazy. It's
yeah,
Orwellian,
yeah,
and him and a couple of other buddies, we were all out, and I was talking about it because you know, but just the reaction was so weird,
hmm,
and like they had talking points loaded up and like all this stuff, and we just stopped hanging out,
yeah,
and we would do a thing like probably every Thursday or Friday, and we'd all get together and watch like an action movie and all that shit, and it just kind of fell off, and I was pretty
yeah.
pissed about it, but
It's sad, man, because like you have to, just because you have different perspectives on how a situation should be handled, whether it's COVID or whatever, that shouldn't break a friendship.
no,
Y-
well
eh,
then it's not even, it's not, it sounds dramatic, but it's not real, you know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like,
like if you're talking about COVID in some way that I disagree with, whatever, who cares? But if you're saying something, well, I want to know, okay, well, where are you coming from with that, and why did you come to that opinion about it? And then when you explain it, and I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. I can see where you're coming from.
yeah,
That's all it takes.
yeah,
Like, oh yeah, I can see that.
yeah,
You know,
or I don't agree, that's fine too.
yeah, like I don't agree with that. I can see how you came to those thoughts, but I don't kind of agree with it based on whatever. I mean,
Yeah,
I just feel like that's how mature and intelligent people have a conversation,
absolutely. Yeah,
right?
I feel like too it was I don't know, I find we talked about this before, but I feel like it's taking people out of their comfort zone where they just can't be comfortable
Right.
thinking about this thing, and
Yeah.
so it became a thing where I was like, you know what, that's fine, you know,
Yeah.
it's better. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I'm into fishing and the outdoors
Hmm.
and other stuff, and they're more into more academic
Right.
things at home. You know what I mean? And it's so it is what it is. But you know, um,
We'll talk about fake friendships. So, what do you think about Musk and Trump?
oh man, yeah, that was
Jesus Christ.
that escalated pretty fast.
That escalated weirdly fast.
Hmm.
Like there's something going on that, well, of course, there's something going on that's not been disclosed. But when Elon tweeted out that shit about Trump being on the Epstein list without any evidence and just threw that out there, that really pissed me off.
That was some teenager stuff. Yeah.
That, like, I'm like, what the fuck are you doing?
Mm.
What are you doing? Like the massive ego it takes. I mean, they both got huge egos, obviously,
Yeah.
but I mean, you're just throwing that out there on the biggest social media platform, and you have one of the biggest reaches in the world without any evidence,
Yeah.
and you're saying the truth will come out. Uh, like that's so irresponsible to do and so unhinged. It really pissed me off. Like, in full disclosure, I like I have stock in Tesla, so you know, you just tank the stock. They lost like 150 billion in market value from that. So, I mean, and these are like they're supposed to be on the same team, and there's one disagreement over this bill, and that's enough to go completely nuclear and say the worst thing you can say about somebody that they're essentially a pedophile.
Yeah. Yeah.
What?
Right on the coattails of Bangiano and Cash Patel saying that.
Bongino?
Bongino.
Bongino?
There we go.
Is
Bongino.
that it? Yeah.
New
Dom is
banjo
it
producer.
Dom Bongino? Or
I hope so. Don
yeah.
Bongino.
Yeah, that's a sick name.
And Cash Patel, they come out there like,
Yeah.
there's nothing to see here, and then
And they look like they're like wide-eyed. Like obviously there's some weird shit going on. Uh,
well, he was on Joe Rogan. Cash Patel, did you see that?
yeah, I did. And classic. uh, he didn't do himself any favors by speaking like this. He would say, there's video available, and we're gonna disclose everything we can.
Yeah.
Like you're saying, okay, you can disclose everything we can. So you're not saying we can disclose everything. You're gonna say, or you're saying like everything we can disclose. Okay, well, define can. Like, what are the parameters of can? So, from an investigative standpoint, it's obviously you want to take into consideration the privacy of victims and people that have been abused. That's a big one. Or if there's an ongoing investigation and you have evidence that would, if it were to be disclosed, it would compromise the investigation. Those are cans.
Yeah.
Like, can you disclose that? No. But you're leaving a lot of wiggle room for not then disclosing everything, or being kind of manipulative there with what you're saying. So it was just I didn't like that. I didn't like that at all.
No, it was odd because he seemed like he was completely full of shit. And yeah, in the Rogan interview, it was like very, because the technique he was using was like, do you think that I would not tell you if I knew? It's like, I don't fucking know you.
Yeah.
What are you talking about?
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah. Just because you like popping zins and
Yeah, and he's there like wearing like fucking Lululemon gear. He's like, look how cool I am. Look how relaxed I am.
Yeah.
You think someone as relaxed as me would not tell? And it was.
I mean, Rogan did a great job because the way Rogan's mind works, he loves a conspiracy. So any kind of proposition that he'd throw out like that, Rogan would be like, well, what if what if this happened and that happened, or whatever, and he would like just throw these kind of hairs into what he's saying and just kind of make him look foolish a little bit, but while still being
respectful.
Respectful.
He's great at that.
Yeah.
The whole time he didn't give him a gotcha moment, but he was floating him out there.
His gotchas were just trying to reason with him, and that's when it seems like, okay, there's this is weird, because when you're just trying to have a reasonable conversation and get down to the brass tacks of things, and then he's still being, seems like he's still being a little bit wishy-washy on details. But I mean, yeah, I don't know, man. It's,
as a police officer, you must have like a good bullshit meter.
Yeah.
You should be able to read, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
So like when you listen to him talk.
Yeah.
Was there any tells or?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Lots of bullshit. I mean, there's lots of legal talk that he's saying, just like I mentioned, like the can thing. I'm going to disclose everything we can.
Yeah.
That's a huge like red flag for me. Right. But it's, but I mean, I can just, when somebody's body language and the way they're talking and stuff, like, I don't know, it just, like he was so uncomfortable.
Yeah. I feel like someone, pure speculation, obviously.
Yeah.
But I'm sure that having the most influential people on the planet and powerful people on the planet, being in like it came out, I can't remember who it was, but when it first broke, they said they captured like 150 hours or something. Even I think it was more than that. It was a ridiculous amount of film of all of these people sexually abusing minors. They had like,
I never heard that.
Yeah, because Tim Dillon actually talked about it, and he played a video of like this female news reporter, and she's like, they basically have in their possession hundreds of hours of video. The whole place was, wired, and he had children, essentially. I think the youngest one was like 14 or 15, like kids on Pleasure Island with all these billionaires and politicians. It's like, they're not there to cater.
Well, here's the thing, like legally, like to charge a person for a crime, you have to have a victim. So if they can't identify the victims, and you can't say for a certainty how old somebody is in the video, that's a problem legally, right?
Okay.
So, and then when it comes to disclosure as well, so you can only release the names of somebody involved in the investigation when a charge has been laid.
Gotcha.
So, and that's for adults specifically. So if you notice, anytime like a youth is charged, you can't release their name. But so that would be so my first thought is like, yeah, that would be challenging because you need to find these victims if they're still alive. And then when you do, are they willing to talk and willing to give a statement, willing to go to court? And then if all those requirements are met, then you can lay a charge and then you can release a name. But if you don't have that, then that's a big headache.
Yeah.
Right. So now I'm just kind of thinking my way through this as well. But now, what other charges could you come up with? I mean, maybe you could come up with other charges like, like soliciting or whatever, but at the same time, an argument can be made that this was a party and it was consensual. Okay, where's the transaction or whatever, right? It's just you need more. You need a lot of information to come out legally and disclose somebody's information that has been a part of something like that. So, and that would be a nightmare of a file to put together.
Yeah,
and would require an incredible amount of like a huge task force to compile it all and put it all together. So
something else he said. So he said Joe asked if he was going to release any of the video footage, and he said, "I'm not re-victimizing these victims, but like blurring people's faces has been around since the 80s. You know what I mean?
mm-hmm.
Like if you watch Hard Copy, they could blur the person's face
Mm-hmm.
on like CCTV footage.
Right.
The whole thing was insane.
Yeah. I'm not a lawyer, but just from an investigative standpoint, as a cop, I wouldn't be comfortable releasing any information like that, period.
Fair enough.
But unless, like I said before, a charge has been laid and the victims are on board with pursuing the charges. And that's part of the problem with sexual assault investigations and these kind of investigations is that the victims have to go through hell to see those things through in court. And it's very, very hard. And, it's not unreasonable for a victim to say, fuck it, like it's not worth it for me. It's, even if this person is going to go to jail for the rest of their lives and there's going to be justice in that sense, to then be exposed as a person that was involved in this. I mean, who wants their name to be attached to that regardless, if they're, even if they're a victim, right? Like, just terrible. It's a terrible, terrible situation. So,
and on the coattails of that,
yeah,
this thing with Trump and Elon, like
Yeah.
I'm so disappointed because they had Elon Musk, RFK Jr., what's her name from Hawaii, Tulsi Gabbard.
yeah,
Like they had this dream team of people
yeah.
that are like, RFK Jr.'s like,
They seem
the food's
altruistic,
poison.
right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's like, cool, the antidote that should be really respected on both sides by the public. And
Yeah.
then, like I mentioned before, my Facebook feed is on fire with crazy, I assume, fake liberal meme accounts that aren't even clever. They're just shooting out all this stuff. RFK Jr. is crazy.
Yeah.
Because he thinks there's poison in the foods.
Yeah.
Famous anti-vaxxer, but he's not, and then Elon Musk is a Nazi somehow.
He's on drugs, which
He's on drugs.
which It seems like it could be.
Seems like possibly, you know.
Yeah.
But and then Donald Trump's an easy target.
Yeah.
But like, there's this dream team. It seems like the egos of Elon and Trump
Like what?
smashed.
But like, that's why I'm so disappointed in Elon, because it's like, you're an American, and that's still the president of the United States. So you were an ally of his, and then to flip on a dime, then he's talking about creating another party. You know,
I never heard that.
yeah, creating a party in the middle, and you know, and then alluding to Trump being a pedophile by being on that list. It's so, that's so bad for their country to have that happen. It's not good for anybody, and you know, I'm sure like the liberal crowd is celebrating it, but that's not good whatsoever. And I mean, it's just so unhinged by Elon.
Yeah.
So unhinged. You know, and then he said he's going to be immediately decommissioning his SpaceX Dragon program. And then he flipped back and said, okay, he's not doing that, after a comment, or like after replying to like a random Twitter user who was just like, I think you should cool down and reconsider this. And he was like, agreed, good idea. Right? Like,
I mean, drugs. He was at like a CPAC convention with the fucking chainsaw. You know what I mean?
But he's shooting from the hip like that. You know, like who do you fucking think you are? I mean, yeah, you're the richest man in the world, one of the most influential people in the world. You're a big deal, dude. Yeah, we get it.
Yeah.
But to try to undermine your own country by essentially doing that, like, what else is going on behind the scenes? And then he's got a black eye, and he says his 5-year-old son gave him the black eye because he told his 5-year-old son to punch him and see what he had or whatever, and he's got this big black eye with, you know, with that's like deep and red. Like, did you see that part?
No, I didn't see that.
So I mean, like, I mean, I teach martial arts to 5-year-olds. A 5-year-old is not giving me a black eye.
No.
You know, like, there's that stupid thing of like, how many kids could you take in a fight or something like that? I could take 10,000 5-year-olds in a fight.
That's true. Yeah.
You know, but you know, they just don't have they haven't developed like the strength in their arms and their to like they could kick you and give you something like that, but
Xavier Xavier's a big boy.
Yeah.
And like, he's punched me in the face a million times.
Right.
Yesterday we were playing tag.
Yeah.
Down at the outdoor playground.
Yeah.
And I was coming up the slide.
Yeah.
And he's like, "No, Daddy," and he popped me in the face.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And how big is he? Just so.
He's about.
But so
65 pounds.
That percentile thing. So for big kids, he's
off the charts for size and weight.
Yeah. So you know, if
he's wearing his brother's clothes that he wore in grade 2 when he's 4.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So if a 4-year-old is going to give you a black eye, it's going to be him.
It's him. Yeah.
And you know, and then with Elon's history of this kind of bravado and this kind of delusional behavior of his ability to fight, where he's, you know, challenges Zuckerberg to a fight.
Yeah.
Right. And Zuckerberg is training. He's training in martial arts all the time. He trains Muay Thai. He trains jiu-jitsu. Anybody that's ever trained in martial arts knows that if some dude comes in the gym who hasn't trained before and they're not in shape like Elon, they get ragdolled by small guys, you know, and not even guys that are well trained. It's guys that have been like training for like a year.
That's right.
You know, so Elon has this kind of oddly aggressive behavior in that way, and he has an unreasonable belief in his abilities to fight. So is it beyond the realm of possibility that in some kind of closed door meeting with Trump's crew that he got in somebody's face and I heard push somebody. This is what I heard. He pushed their Treasury Secretary or whoever it was. Like, I don't know what his name is now, but that he got up in somebody's face like that, pushed him, and then that guy clocked him. So for somebody like Elon to get a punch in the face, I'm sure that would be shocking to him. And then to realize, hey, you're not this big badass that can just, mentally will yourself to smash somebody if they need to be smashed. Like, it's the old thing.
Business.
Like once I see red, bro. Once I see red, like, it's lights out.
Karate. I know crazy. Yeah, that kind of shit.
Yeah. Well, that's like, but he said that kind of shit before on Rogan, where he said this crazy thing one time where Rogan was trying to ask him, like, what kind of martial arts experience do you have? And then he's saying, I have a move. It's called being a walrus. And you just kind of lay on somebody and then they can't move. And I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like,
it's hard. I find it hard to, like, if MSNBC comes out with the article and they're like, Elon's on drugs, I'm like, probably not.
Yeah.
It's hard to believe it.
Yeah, because they misreport and lie or use sources that are not vetted all the time.
Yeah, and also he's the enemy. He's on the Republican side.
Right.
You see him talk to Don Lemon. He seemed thoughtful, and he mopped the floor with him because he could talk normally and get out his thoughts, and then this kind of shit, and also fighting Mark Zuckerberg, like these things that are so strange. It's like he probably is either bipolar or on a shit ton of drugs. I just can't imagine being so smart and also being on fucking ketamine, was it? And like all these crazy drugs.
Well, that's the thing about like super smart people too. There's that fine line between being genius and being fucking crazy.
That's true.
Like Tesla, like ironically, like Tesla, this company's named after, like Tesla, famously had like some kind of relationship with a bird. I think that was Tesla, that he was like in love with a bird, never had sex in his whole life. Now maybe I'm confusing him with Isaac Newton, but we're getting kind of these stories smushed together. But Tesla was, a genius creator, but he was also fucking crazy too.
Asexual bird lover.
But he was also fucking crazy and wasn't able to really function as like a normal person in life. So there's a lot of parallels there. I also know, like with Trump's bill that Elon was opposed to, and that caused the big divide, that Trump was removing EV mandates, which cost Elon a lot of money, right? So
maybe that was it. It just seemed like they were that's friends for a while. Yeah, it was like a Tesla commercial on the White House front lawn, kind of thing.
Yeah. So even if that is it, I mean, a proportionate response is not to then hop on Twitter and say, essentially, say Trump's a pedophile and then throw all that out.
Yeah.
And now you've completely alienated people that supported you and support him, and then you're not thinking of your shareholders. You're not, or the people that are invested into your companies and all the people that work for you too. Like he's got a massive responsibility. I mean, so many people depend on him for their livelihoods. So I mean, when a guy that's the head of a company like that is behaving in an unhinged manner, that costs the company money, and then that company potentially has to scale back and lay people off. Totally irresponsible. Right?
It is, yeah. Even the he went in there to find corruption,
right?
But he was like firing people that work for the national parks and things like that. It wasn't the MO that I thought it was.
Right.
It's like, let's look to military spending in weird countries. Let's look at like the whole USAID thing. That was huge.
Right.
But then it kind of devolved into regular people losing their jobs.
Yeah.
Yeah. Excuse me.
Well, them uncovering, millions of dollars being spent on Sesame Street episodes in Iraq.
Yeah.
Or, okay, so obviously there's some money laundering going on there, right? Or that's completely fucked, right? So, like, that's good to know. All that is good to know for sure. And like that, I loved seeing that kind of stuff,
Yeah.
right? But yeah, just like you're saying, when real programs start to get cuts, like I know like Bono was on Rogan's podcast and he was talking about he was saying like they know like a bunch of people have died as a result of USAID getting cut off. So I think that's a stretch as well, but that's conflating it a little bit or kind of blowing it up. But no doubt there's the baby's getting thrown out with the bathwater. There's a lot of good programs because I mean Bono, like he worked with every administration. Like he worked with George Bush, and he even said that George Bush did more for like the AIDS pandemic or the AIDS endemic AIDS issue and saved more people from AIDS based on his kind of initiatives than anybody else has ever done in human history. That like he was one of the most important people, so it's not like he's just all in on one team and if the other team does something it's not acknowledged. I mean, he's acknowledging good things on both sides, right? So so that was concerning what he had brought up as well, right? But
yeah, it's nice to see, especially Bono not being a polarizing figure.
Yeah.
And actually, having a good eye on different administrations. But man, it's so disappointing. I had so much hope. And
yeah.
The thing with Elon and Trump and then Kash Patel, like, fuck. It's the same.
Not a good week.
No, it's not a good week. And it just goes to show the people in there don't really have any power. You know, the elected officials, they don't have any power, it seems.
Yeah.
There's always, probably their life on the line.
Right.
Depending on what they say. And again, that's speculation, but like not to rehash the Kash Patel stuff, but not to recash, but this guy is sitting in a cell. He tried to commit suicide the first time. That tape has gone missing. They can't find it. And then the night he dies, the fucking cameras go out and the security guards fall asleep.
Yeah.
And he's on suicide watch. How could anyone possibly get in? It's like he was controlling a network of the most powerful individuals in creating blackmail tapes.
Yeah.
So that's
I've run a cell block before. I used to manage a cell block.
Okay.
And even in like I do agree with him in a sense where like even in a cell block that I ran, for somebody to come in or for some kind of thing to happen in there where it's some operation that somebody's going to die inside the cells. I mean, it would be like extraordinarily difficult, with something like that. But I think, that's all noise. At the end of the day, I don't give a fuck if he killed himself or not, really. Why the fuck did that even happen? Why'd you let it happen? If he's on suicide watch, I mean, like how is that happening where people are falling asleep or the cameras aren't working or all these things seem to be happening? It's like this cavalcade of oopsies that all happen at the same fucking time in a perfect storm, and this has all made it so fucking suspicious. But at the end of the day, guess who's still alive? Ghislaine Maxwell. Okay, well, what the fuck does she know? And put her before like a grand jury or whatever it is, and there's still information. Just because he's fucking dead doesn't mean all the information died with him. There's still evidence.
Yeah.
So like they're putting so much focus on or Cash Patel is putting so much focus on, okay, he didn't or he killed himself. He killed himself. Case closed. Okay, no, the case is not closed. Like there's still a lot of evidence out there, and there's still a lot of things that need to be exposed and investigated and brought to justice, right? So yeah, like that was a massive fuck up, regardless. But that doesn't mean like it's over.
Oh my God,
You know?
it's terrible too, because I feel like they kind of know they got to wait it out. You talked before about, culture, society has such a short memory.
Yeah.
Ghislaine Maxwell will probably be a host on fucking American Idol in 5 years. You know what I mean? Like it's
Dancing with the Stars.
Exactly. It's like, oh my, doesn't she look beautiful tonight? It's like, it's they just got to wait it out.
Yeah.
Let's take a pee break, and we're back.
Gotta get a foot cam eventually. Well, yeah. There's like, I don't know, one more thing about the Cash Patel thing that I don't know. Then if you want to hop off it, but if I was in his position and I was the director of the FBI, whatever, and I was trying to be as open and honest in that situation as possible, I would phrase it something like this. I would say, listen, I don't know for sure if he killed himself or he didn't kill himself. I believe he killed himself, like saying from his position, right? But we're never going to be able to prove with the information that we have that somebody assassinated him in that cell. And it's highly unlikely based on the information I have, but we just cannot prove that.
Yeah.
We don't have any evidence to support it. So what we can do now is focus on what we are able to and what we can control. And that's the evidence that we have available to us. And that's what we're going to be exposing. That's what we're going to be actually presenting and trying to make the most out of at this point. Because we're not going to bring him back to life. And if we do get additional evidence down the road that shows that somehow he was assassinated in that cell block, then we're going to bring that to light. We're going to look into it.
Yeah.
But at this time, we just don't have anything to support that whatsoever. Right. And that's, you can just leave it at that. And people would be like, yeah, okay.
Well, it's honest and there's nuance there.
Yeah.
He went all the other way.
Yeah. But
he's like, I've been in cells.
Yeah.
I've been in.
But he's taking this hard line approach to be like, not possible whatsoever.
Yeah. And that's fishy, and it makes him seem like a liar. You know? It's like, okay, that's strange.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
It's like if, like the JFK assassination, that was years ago, before we were born. And like, if someone comes on there and they're like, look, I've fired weapons before. Mm-hmm. I've been in cars. There's no way. It's like, right. But you don't know. There has to be that nuance answer like you're talking about.
For JFK, like people would take the approach of, like I think Jesse Ventura, he was like, he's like, I know that shot is impossible. That's an impossible shot to make. I was a Navy SEAL and that's an impossible. And it's like, dude, what the fuck are you talking about? It's an impossible shot. Like people can hit fucking crazy shots, right? Yeah. People can hit a guy in the mountains from 4 miles away. I mean, so to take that kind of approach on things, mm-hmm. People just kind of roll their eyes and it's like, okay, like you're saying, impossible is never like, like impossible can happen. Right. So
there was too much certainty. And at the same time, as a normal person listening to him, I'm like, you're full of shit. It seems like he had all of the, here is why, like, here is my background. So I know. Yeah. I wouldn't lie to you. Yeah. I don't know you. That was odd.
Odd and disappointing.
But there's so much coming at you when it comes to that stuff. You can wait it out. Like I was saying before, like the Trump shooter, it's like, that's pretty suspicious. This guy is like there with a rangefinder, probably high-fiving Secret Service. It seems like, like people are like, there's a guy over there. Who is that guy?
Yeah.
I don't know, and then he gets up there, perfect place, fires a couple shots off, hits him, kills this poor guy in the crowd.
My suspicion with that is, and my problem with that is like, was the head of the Secret Service or whatever, were they being intentionally incompetent in that moment? And were they then hoping that something like that, crazy enough like that, could happen? And then they're like, whoopsies, well, we fucked up and now Trump is dead. You know, like, is that, like, I'm thinking like something like that is more of what's going on, because people wanted Trump dead.
Yeah.
Like, he was, if there was ever a risk to one person being assassinated in that time period in the world, like, that was the guy, right? So the amount of security and planning that should have gone around his like these kind of events that he was hosting, it should have been top notch. So to have this half-assed approach with the intelligence that they've had and the threat assessments that they've had for his safety, there's no excuses in that moment to let something like that happen.
Yeah, the unapologetic demeanor of the director too, who wouldn't step down.
Yeah.
It was like, but you had one job.
Yeah.
And completely botched it, you know, and it was kind of like, well, what's the big deal?
Yeah.
You know? And
yeah. So, I mean, I'm thinking like that's more likely that it's, you know, we're just not going to put the necessary funding into his security. And if something bad happens, something bad happens.
Yeah.
Right. And then that's good for us.
But no investigation, you know, and like it just fell off and
Weird.
Not talked about. Like he's in the White House right now. And it's still like nothing has come out about that, you know. The guy, it was like in his 20s and never had social media. His house was scrubbed, supposedly, allegedly, and
according to Rogan.
Yeah, according to Joe Rogan.
That's all I know, is that his house was like bleached or whatever. It was like,
I'm saying this is a joke, but not really. Like Joe Rogan is where I get most of my information, you know, because like I read stuff. And a lot of times it kind of goes nowhere.
Right.
But I'll hear a topic on Rogan and then I'll look into it kind of thing and try to get some information. But it's hard to get information. Like so many people are biased. So many people are just saying shit for clicks.
Yeah.
And there's nothing behind it, you know? And
but just have some nerd with a rangefinder be able to get on a roof. That is, I mean, again, if I'm planning the security for Trump in that moment, and you know this is where Trump is going to be standing and this is where he's going to be speaking, and I'm the head of security, okay, well, I'm going to stand in that position as well, and I'm going to scan 360 degrees, and I'm going to point out every position that can compromise his safety. I'm going to point it all out, and then I'm going to get another person to stand there and do the same thing and see what they say, and then another person. We'll get multiple people to stand in that same position and point out areas where somebody can get like a straight line or any kind of positional advantage to take a shot or anything.
Yeah.
And then you want to cut all that shit out.
Didn't they have a sniper too on the roof?
Like, yeah, they had snipers on some roofs, but their excuse, this was legit, the excuse of the head of the Secret Service was that it was a safety issue for them to put a Secret Service agent on the roof that this shooter was on. That's because it had a slope on it.
There was a slope on it. Yeah.
Like, that is fucking stupid.
Yeah.
So stupid.
It's
like nobody buys that.
It's as ludicrous as the Epstein stuff.
Yeah.
You know, and luckily, like you said, Ghillian Maxwell.
I think the H is silent. I don't know. Who cares?
Okay.
Who cares? She's loser. Loser
Queen,
Maxwell.
She's a loser. She's queen of the pedophiles.
Yeah.
But like, you know, she's in prison. Nothing's coming out about that. She's in there for trafficking to no one. And it's like, there's all these things that are so, I can't say obvious, but very fishy, you know, and like, they don't need to get to the bottom of it.
Yeah.
Because they can also gaslight one section of the population and the other population has been told that these aren't really people, you know, when it comes to like Donald Trump.
Yeah.
And it's excuse me. moving forward to something I heard about recently that kind of blew my mind. Do you ever listen to Sean Ryan? It's Sean Ryan show.
Occasionally, like
Okay.
like there's somebody on like I got to be kind of interested before I don't listen to it or watch it religiously. Like most recent one I watched was Larry Vickers.
Oh yeah.
Larry Vickers was on, and love listening to that guy talk. He's just one of these old school, like, you know, Delta Force guys that just comes from another generation, and he's got some cool stories, you know. So I wanted to listen
Yeah,
to
that
that one.
guy
You know?
is. It's funny. One thing about that interview is like this guy. He has his life together. He's like a teetotaler, you know, and still like never really self-proclaimed wasn't a good father or husband. Like that kind of stuff blows my mind.
What
This,
Larry Vickers said it?
I think it was Larry Vickers. Is he the guy that owns he owns like a gun company, gun accessories?
Oh yeah, well yeah. I mean,
Uh,
he makes a lot of stuff. I think I got one of his slings gone
okay,
for a gun,
I
but
might be wrong, but I thought it was Vickers.
yeah, I don't know. I can't remember him discussing his family on that, but
Yeah, towards the end of the episode, and again, I might be wrong, but it was a Delta Force guy,
yeah.
and yeah,
Well, it's but that's I mean, it's not surprising to, in your opinion, like if on reflection, like as a father, to label yourself as not a good father, um, if you're in that world, and it's because
yeah, fair enough.
it's hard to be a good father, or like it's hard to focus and be as good as you can be at that job. Um, like I always think back to like a shooting that I was in where I, you know, when I was in this shooting and this guy's shooting at us with a semi-auto 308, and all we have is 9mm pistols, and you know, it's so hard to fight back when somebody has like these outranging you with that kind of a gun. And I'm taking cover and I'm watching somebody freeze in that moment and they're not even in cover, and I'm looking at them, I'm yelling at them like to fucking get down, get in the ditch. And that guy is and rounds are just whizzing past him. And it's one of the craziest things I've ever seen where they just completely frozen, jaws open. And at the time I was like, how the fuck can you let that happen? And I was kind of pissed, you know, and you know, because I was totally in the moment. All I wanted to do in that moment was win, and make sure my friends didn't get hurt. But he was a father. He had kids and stuff. So I'm like, you know, reflecting on that, I'm like, you know, did he get out of his truck and then think like, holy fuck, I'm about to die. My kids aren't gonna have a dad. Like, you know, am I gonna die? And maybe this kid's had like fucking basketball or some shit he had to take him to that night or something like that. And that's the thought that comes in your head.
Mm,
If those thoughts come in your head in that moment, uh, you're not going to perform, and you're gonna fuck up, and you might freeze, you know. So I at like when time passed, I became a lot more empathetic to people in those positions when they do not perform well or they freeze, um, because it's a lot easier when you don't have a family, I think, to just say fuck it, and you know, I don't care if I get killed here because I'm going to try to kill that guy first before he kills anybody else. Because my whole world at that point was my job, you
mm.
know, and then my best friends were working with me at that time, you know. So, um, you know, I mean, it like I had no other choice, or nothing else came to my mind in that moment besides, you know, trying to kill that guy, right? So yeah, I mean,
Thinking
it's
about that stuff gets in the way, puts you in danger, puts your
yeah,
team in danger.
right.
No, that makes a lot of sense
So
when you
you know,
explain it like that.
so yeah, so when guys are operating at the highest level, and like, you know, and that's just policing, you know, but you know, I can imagine them not being able to um, be able to afford to allocate that kind of headspace for family.
Yeah.
especially when they're on deployment, right? So,
No, that makes sense. Um, Sean had this guy on who he was calling like a modern day Indiana Jones kind of thing. He looks into mysteries and anyway, one he was talking about. Do you ever hear like Peru and the face peelers?
there's a lot of weird shit going on in Peru.
Yeah.
There's a lot of weird shit. There's always weird stories coming out of Peru
Mm-hmm.
and whatnot, but I don't know about the face.
Well, this one made the news back in like I think it was 2018,
Okay.
and there was a village that said that these creatures were they would come and they'd be standing on flying discs. They would come in and kind of terrorize the village, and then they'd
Shit.
get in, they'd leave again, and then they'd get in these craft and they'd fly off. So it got to the point where the people in the village asked the Navy of Peru to come in and help, and this investigator or sheriff or whatever was like, "Yeah, it's a group of like miners that banded together to terrorize this town or whatever."
Okay.
And they're like, "No, it's not." So anyway, this guy goes. He gets in contact with them, and he said, "I'll come and investigate." And he went down and he like brought some stuff to help the village. And so he started interviewing the people that were that had witnessed these things,
Yeah.
right? So he talked to two people that seen them. One was a girl, and she's out in the backyard kind of thing, playing or like in a field, and they had like a farm. And she said that one guy came up, and it's like a guy in black body armor,
Yeah.
with like a black body armor helmet with
Right.
like almond shaped lenses.
Okay.
And then another guy comes up and he grabs her under the armpits. He's standing on this flying disc thing, and then the other guy comes, and he was a bit shorter, and he grabs her by the feet and brings her behind the chicken coop and takes a syringe of the stuff and sticks it in her nose and plunges it, and she gets all disoriented. Then the other guy takes out like a cream and starts rubbing on her face, and they take out like this kind of, the way she described it, he thought it was like a laser scalpel, and started to do like cut her face off, basically. Yeah. And she said, all of a sudden, this guy is like, "Don't put too much cream on because it's going to destroy the flesh."
Okay.
And he talked in Peruvian, and she called the other one a gringo because he also spoke the language, but it was with an accent. And they were talking back and forth, and then villagers seen them there, and they came out yelling, and so they dropped her and got away, kind of thing.
Jumped on their flying discs.
Exactly. Jumped on their flying discs, and then
air surfed out of there.
Exactly. So two silver surfers.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's wild, and
like,
just,
yeah, it's hard. Like, have you ever heard of Dr. Stephen Greer?
That sounds super familiar.
So he's been around forever, and he used to be, I think, like an emergency room doctor. Like, he has like a fairly credible background. But I've been listening to him talk about like alien disclosure since I was like a youngster, and back in the day he had this big reveal that he was gonna come out that I think it was Peru, that essentially they had found the remnants of an alien in Peru.
Okay.
And it was a dead alien baby. It was a little tiny dead alien baby that they found in Peru. And he's like, when people see this, I mean, it's going to change humanity as we know it. And then eventually the reveal happened. It was like this fucking, it looked like shit. It looked like it was made out of Play-Doh. Like some kid made like this little alien baby with kind of like a big head. And it was so disappointing. And it's like, what the fuck? But I think they found like additional mummified kind of corpses in Peru,
Okay.
of other weird, kind of fossilized, what look like creatures, with like 3 fingers on each hand and these kind of curled up toes and stuff with like maybe three toes and large weird heads and whatnot. Uh, but so I don't know if it's Peru that in particular that weird shit's going on there, or if people in Peru like kind of make this kind of their thing where they kind of fuck with people and try to create these fantastic stories. Um, but yeah, I haven't heard of the face peelers, and then I would think like, okay, well, like what does an alien need with
Well,
a
it's
face?
interesting because they believe that they're humans.
Oh, okay,
They don't think they're aliens.
okay,
In this village, they only really have birdshot. They just use shotguns with birdshot,
oh, really?
and they said that their body armor is like impervious to it. It just plinks off.
Yeah.
And so one of the guys said he's seen one of them, or he's seen 2 of them. They're always in like a team of 2, and they were on his property or whatever. So he went out and he blasted one of them, and the guy fell off the disc, and like he couldn't fly back up because he said they had like
Right.
basically they could fly back onto the disc with like these lights on the bottom of their shoes, kind of thing. It sounds super realistic as I explain it, but so yeah,
I love it though.
I love hearing it.
I want to
Like,
believe, man.
oh man, I'm just so interested, and
Yeah.
and then like so they get these flying saucers, and basically they're kind of like translucent, and they can see the 2 dudes sitting in it, like fighter jet style, one in the front, one in the back, and they fly off, kind of thing. But
So they can see them sitting, like it's like
they can
translucent.
see, yeah,
And
they could like it's like semi-translucent enough so that they can see them sitting in there, as they fly away.
Like
but
Wonder Woman's
exactly,
jet.
yeah,
She had like a invisible jet.
the invisible jet that was just her flying in.
Yeah.
But no, it's just like one of those things where I think about, was it in Michigan that there was all those like flying saucers they seen?
Like recently?
Yeah.
Was that like the drone thing? Was it or?
Yeah, I don't know what they surmised it to be. It was like, I remember they seen a shit ton of drones and flying saucer objects, and I thought it was in Michigan.
Okay.
But there was a ton of them.
Yeah.
And I just wonder, again, like it's just some dude recounting, and it sounds fantastical,
Right.
I'll say.
Yeah.
But like,
Yeah.
there was all that crazy stuff going on in I believe Michigan, and earlier, again, Sean Ryan, this like Navy SEAL reached out to him and was like, I know what's going on out there. I don't want to come on the show, but I have information. And then this guy blew himself up in a Tesla.
Okay. Yeah. So he was talking. I know what you're talking about now. Yeah. That was that guy said they were Chinese drones.
Okay.
And that they were being launched from the ocean and whatnot. But I think a lot of stuff came out about that guy in the aftermath, that it was, he was having some kind of psychotic break.
Okay.
And I think that drone thing that was like it was Edwards Air Force Base or something like that, or at one of those kind of suspicious bases in the U.S. that always seem like there's silly stuff going around. But I think the government confirmed that it was essentially a psyop, that they wanted to see how people would be reacting to just a little bit of chaos in the sky and like essentially UFOs, and see how people would be handling it. And apparently not well, because people were fucking freaking out.
They were, yeah.
There was so much conspiracies coming out that there was a lost nuclear device, and that they were combing the surrounding area for a nuke that went missing, and like all this kind of stuff, right? Yeah, so like it's getting harder and harder to know what to believe, because there's so many things that uh, that you would think were nonsense that have been proven to be true in a lot of regards, right? So, um, but but yeah, that was definitely an interesting story for a long time. Was that guy, because he blew himself up in a Cybertruck, right,
Yeah,
outside of a Trump building.
a bulletproof vehicle. So it basically just blew up inwards. You
Yeah,
know.
yeah. So, and that's I think that's like they were crediting the design or the basically like how uh, sturdy the Tesla truck was to contain the blast, so it wasn't as damaging as it could have been. Um, because I think the guy's dad said he's like, if my son wanted to, you know, take out a building, like he had the training to do that.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
You wouldn't have chose that method
right, yeah,
unless it's like all a fucking Tesla commercial. Who
yeah,
knows? But
yeah,
yeah,
but
wild stuff. Speaking of drones,
yeah,
um, you mentioned you were talking about the Russian drone attack by
or the
sorry, the
yeah, yeah,
Ukrainian
yeah,
drone attack in Russia.
yeah, yeah. That was crazy. But there's so many. Then with that, you don't. It's so hard to get accurate information as to how much damage they did uh, with those drones. But it was a fairly brilliant plan where they set compartments up on top of these transport trucks, and these Russian truck drivers, unbeknownst to them, once they got deep enough inside Russia, the tops of these trucks came open, and then I think they launched over 100 drones
It's
into
wild.
to bomb like planes that were just sitting on tarmacs, and they got a lot of valuable. Like Russian bombers and Russian planes, and did an incredible amount of damage. But again, like how much damage, not not too sure. But that whole asymmetric warfare thing is so interesting these days. Where I mean, who would have thought 10 years ago that this is the way war would kind of be fought in today's day and age? And um, so, I mean, drones are a pretty terrifying way to go out,
Yeah, that's
and
like this. I'm watching the footage of them attack people.
horrible.
It's like you can't shoot it down,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
there's not much you can do,
yeah,
you know.
yeah. I mean, like that's. Like they have to have for this is the kind of the easiest way to shoot them down is you mentioned birdshot before, uh, having a shotgun with birdshot in it. I mean, uh, like you think of skeet shooters where they have the clay pigeons and they just you track it, you shoot the birdshot, boom, you knock it out because you just gotta for a drone you just gotta hit it.
Yeah,
It's not like this thing is durable enough to take rounds. You get you clip it with you know some birdshot that's going at a high velocity, it's going to knock it down. So
yeah. I think there's civilian drones, like not expensive.
yeah,
Hit the rotors and that thing's gone.
yeah, yeah. But birdshot is a great way to knock them down. I mean, you put birdshot in like a Benelli M4. Uh, a semi-auto shotgun, you got to have the right type of birdshot. Uh, but I mean, you can take multiple shots, boom, 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 to knock that down. So uh, I know they're seeing a comeback in like the utility with shotguns now in war as well for that reason. But that's an effective and crude way to knock them down. There's other methods as well, like there's devices that you can put on top, or like tracking devices that you can put on weapons on like regular rifles, where you can track the drone and shoot it down as well. I don't know too much about that stuff, but
Is there like an EMP that you can deploy?
yeah, I think they have those as well. That um, they can knock them out some way, but I think with this recent Ukrainian attack, they're saying that the connection they were using, because you have to have somebody operating that drone, right? So you need some kind of a internet connection
Mm.
or some kind of connection of some kind. So and they were using fiber optic to do it, but I don't know enough to,
Yeah.
to know really. I mean,
How that would.
like my stupid brain, I'm like, oh, don't you need to like plug in fiber optic to get
Yeah.
to plug it into the have an extension cord like plugged into that drone?
That's right. Yeah.
but but
Just
but
flying around these giant extension cords. Unplug it.
yeah,
Yeah.
but I mean, no doubt they got some sneaky ways to essentially set up um, some kind of a repeater in the area to uh, for a temporary connection to establish a temporary connection to get those drones to hit what they need to hit.
Yeah.
But it's, I mean, can you imagine having like you think of like a B-2 bomber, stealth bomber? I mean, that's a $2 billion aircraft. Imagine a $400 drone like destroying a B-2 bomber, $2 billion aircraft for 400
Man.
bucks.
Yeah. It's wild.
You know,
Pure
like,
guerrilla warfare. Just like
there's
back
some
up and
heads are
pick
going to
up.
roll for that. Like, you know,
Yeah.
just to have like expensive aircraft sitting out on a tarmac and not covered at all, or yeah, that seems a little bit crazy as well. So, but I mean, the war has been going on for so long as well. I mean, that's the problem, is to be uh, totally to have wherewithal 100% of the time and not make any mistakes, and just to keep that consistent level of preparedness all the time. I mean, that's not something Russians are really known for,
No.
right? So
It's just I mean, I know that you know, they retaliated, but I just feel like that wasn't retaliation. Like they're probably going to really hit him hard now. I just hope it doesn't go nuclear.
yeah, I mean, yeah, like the saving grace for the nuclear thing is that there's a belief that if Russia does use nukes, uh, it would be such an escalation, and they'd be such a pariah on the world stage that would force other countries to just get directly involved
Yeah.
instead of like this proxy war that's been going on. So
It's it it seems like, well, I don't even know if seems like is the right way to put it, but like the Ukraine is basically a blender of its young people for this thing. And the US, the last administration was like, stick with it. Don't pull out,
that's what seems so gross. You know, like they're giving them just enough ammunition, or just enough weaponry to sustain the war, but
Mhm.
not make any advances, or not you know, like if you're going to support them in the war, uh, you have to be able to give them enough weaponry to make a dent so it can stop it.
Yeah.
But that never seemed like it was the case.
No.
It was always this red tape, or always this him and han about how much can we give them, and
They're just prodding a superpower with a nuclear power.
yeah,
And it it seems like it's like push them into a nuclear response. Ukraine will be blasted off, the face of the earth, and finally we can invade.
right, yeah,
It's scary. It's scary when you think
yeah.
about that.
Now, like the thing about the nukes too is that Putin wants that land, and he also wants, but Russia has a population issue too. So I think they have an issue with population collapse. So to get to absorb a country to then increase their population is like a big deal for them
Mhm.
economically, and to help their countries with sustainability. So and you wouldn't want to nuke a place they're trying to take over either. And I mean, Ukraine is known for having like wheat and crops, and like tons of farmland that is very valuable. It's like they've called it like the breadbasket of the world or something like that, right?
Okay.
So if you're dropping nukes on that, I mean, that's not ideal.
No,
right?
cutting
So
off your foot.
yeah, so there's there's a lot of reasons on why not to use nukes. Uh, so I mean, if but if you corner them, and if they're on their back foot and they're going to be invaded, I think at that point, I mean, it's not outside the realm of possibility that somebody like Putin would want to use them, right? But I mean, it's scary. It's scary stuff. Yeah, and so sad too. I mean, if like you talk about that whole war being a blender. I mean, how many Ukrainian youth and Russian youth who have no control over those two countries going to war? I mean, how many lives are lost? It's really sad to think about, right? Generations of people that are just gone.
And for what? Like NATO, to join NATO after all this time,
Yeah, yeah. I don't know. It's like what else? Like what else? There's more to it. Like what else is there to it? There has to be more to it.
Yeah.
But um, but you have to be honest too about what is going on in Ukraine, and like the CIA had bases in Ukraine as well. I mean, all that was disclosed in the New York Times, that the CIA had like up to 12 bases in Ukraine on the border of Russia. So I mean, Putin is going to use that as an excuse. Like, if he wants to invade a place, I mean, that's a perfect excuse that he can kind of make, is that, okay, NATO is encroaching on our territory.
Yeah.
But then, I mean, but he would also just throw out that, like, the denazification of Ukraine as his reasons for invading. So, I mean, he's been all over the place as well.
Well, he's not a good guy,
No, and apparently he's like the richest man in the world. It's just that he has an unfathomable amount of personal wealth that is hidden. So he's like the gangster of that place, and how do you deal with that?
Yeah.
And but it's so hard to grasp his popularity amongst Russians as well. Like, do Russians support him or do they not? I don't know.
Yeah, it's hard to tell, especially I think it was Tim Dillon that said basically, like, his discipline of being like, oh, did that reporter say something? Mm-hmm. Shoot her in the face and then hang up the phone. Like it's not like here in the United States, everyone just wants to be fucking famous.
Right.
It's like,
yeah,
Elon, he's not in a boiler room with Trump having this conversation. He's like, he's a pedophile. Like, it's there's no,
right.
It's kind of all out there, but it's not.
Yeah. And like Trump's personality type, like, he's a populist. So like ultimately he wants to be liked. Yeah. Right. So hopefully if that, like, he's then doing stuff that will make people like him, and are those policies then that he's implementing for the greater good, based on that kind of a stance, is that good? But Putin's not like that. Putin is, he doesn't give a fuck what people think of him, and he's shown he's willing to do whatever it takes, really, to stay in power as well, right? So that's not good.
No,
that's not good. And then one thing we don't know either, I think we talked about this a while ago, it's like, what do Ukrainians want at this point, right? Like, what does the general population of Ukraine want? And they might be so deep into that war now that they're like, like, fuck it, like, we got to see it through.
Well, they also have a level of propaganda, like, I'm sure and also Russians are killing Ukrainians.
Yeah.
That's not going to make you super happy about it, but also you might get thrown into a van and put on the front lines. So
it's really tough to have a perspective from this part of the world, right? And have a good perspective. I mean, I got friends that have gone over there and helped train Ukrainians, and they had so much good to say about, like, their resolve just good people, and their attitude towards the thing was, um, was like, very inspirational and whatnot, so, and that's the common man and woman there.
Yeah. And that's the true perspective.
Yeah.
Everyone can armchair quarterback things based on
Yeah.
like a big picture that we don't really
Yeah.
understand.
Yeah.
But then it's like, well, the people on the ground
Yeah.
that are living and dying, it's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah. Like fuck all the politics.
yeah,
And whatever you think of Zelensky or the Trump's relationship with them and the whole
they're in
thing.
an unwinnable war.
Yeah,
They're not going to beat Russia.
that's
You
the,
know,
like that's the scary thing, is like, to what end is this whole thing, and
Yeah.
and how many people is going to take that get in that meat grinder for it to come to an end. And Russia has a history of the Soviet Union and whatnot, of giving zero fucks about sacrificing generations and
yeah.
to win, right?
Well, that was I mean, that's how they did so well in World War II.
Yeah,
You
the
know,
scorched earth.
scorched earth, and I think some of the soldiers were out there with pitchforks because they didn't have enough rifles.
Yeah.
And if you turn to run,
Yeah,
they'll shoot you.
yeah,
You know,
yeah. The lengths they were willing to go through were that much more extreme than the Nazi invaders, and they basically had more resolve and will than them, and outlasted them, and basic, and then knocked them back, and took the fight to them eventually, right? So, yeah, I don't know. It just makes me sad. It makes me sad that kind of shit is still happening.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
All right, my man.
yeah, it's true. It's true.